Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I really hope that you're enjoying the videos. Please leave a comment, ask your questions, subscribe and share my videos. I'd really appreciate that. So this week, what are we going to talk about? Of course, UK property market, what is happening, but more importantly, look, a lot of people want to start investing in property, and the one thing that will bring us out and through recession and depressions in the economy is the housing market, without doubt. In every time that there's a big recession or depression, it's the housing market that brings us through. Every single time it's bricks and mortar. We can see that the stocks and shares are up and down. We saw that GameStop go wow right up the top, and people in the street who had never seen about stocks started to buy. This is reminiscent of sort of around about 1928 in America, when I think it was one of the Kennedys said that when you hear from the shoe shine boy and the taxi drivers that you should be buying particular stock, it's too late. So that was always the acid test, and yet a lot of people started to hear, and it was on the news, GameStop, and whatever it was, you could buy it for £5, and then it went up to a value of 400 or whatever, and a lot of people made a lot of money. But unfortunately, what did they do? They fueled it by getting the man in the street to chuck more money in, and it was quite interesting learning the mechanics of what they did, because there was a hedge fund hoping it was going to drop and all sorts going on, and yet the market was pretty much manipulated and people got in a little bit too late and they lost some money. Bricks and mortar, yes, it goes down in value, but it always recovers. It always does. History tells us that. But more than that, you have an income. Okay, so in stocks and shares, you'll only get an income if the value goes up and you pull out a dividend. In property, whether it goes up or down, you still have a rental income. You should do, okay? And that's really, really important to understand. If you buy gold, silver, it's a great asset. It will appreciate over time, but it gives you no revenue unless you sell it, all right? So bricks and mortar, property is the one constant that really works well. However, new people coming into property, I think that a lot of them are quite naive, because they think, oh, it's quite easy, I've got 100, 200,000, I'm just going to buy some property, rent it out, and away we go. Well, we've seen lately how a lot of people will have problems with their tenants because people aren't paying rent and furlough payments, and now you can't evict people for 6 months. And yet that did change. I had a video a few weeks ago talking about that with excessive rent you can start the eviction process. But there's been quite a hard thing on landlords, and watch my next video coming up, I think later this week, Wednesday, Friday. There's some interesting stuff afoot. But with this one, when people come into property and they think, I'll just rent it out, it comes with a lot of responsibility. So if you are watching this and thinking, look, I want to invest in property, that's great. But look from the other side. Who are going to be your client? Who is going to be your tenant? And the one thing about that, with any other business, if you go to a restaurant and eat, you want to have good food and good service. And I was a chef for 25 years, so I wanted a real constant and have a high standard of good food. But if that waiter came along and went, here's your food, mate, and chucks it down, it slops everywhere, bad service can destroy all of the good work that I would have done as a chef, preparing something really nice, because no one likes bad service. If you go into a shop and you buy a car, let's say you go to a garage and you buy a car, if you drive out and it just fails, you're going to go back and complain and take it back, rightfully so. And yet people who come into property, it shocks me day on day. They buy property and then they look just to buy the next and buy the next, and their client, the tenant, is incidental. It's almost as if they are a hidden commodity that I don't want to know about the tenant. I just want to have the money coming in. Well, okay, there's a part and parcel here. Now, I get that you might not want to know about the tenant, and truth be told, I don't like managing properties, because I buy in at almost an emotional level, and if they tell me a sob story, I'm more likely to believe it and help them out and all that sort of thing. So I do need to have a level of separation between us. However, their welfare I am very, very concerned about, and that is really, really important. So you and I as landlords have a legal obligation to make sure that the property is safe and fit for human habitation. It's the law. This isn't you must make it nice. It's the law. Regardless, and look, write this one down, regardless if the tenant pays rent or not. How about that? Because you might say, well, if I haven't got the money, how can I do it? Tough. It's a legal requirement on your behalf. Okay, it is. So look, again, someone else has cropped up. Many of you have seen it, but there is a rogue landlord, Harun Karin, and Nottingham. Okay, and he had an HMO. Okay, that HMO fell into disrepute. Why? Look, there is, I think I actually know the enforcement officer that spotted this, because he goes around different counties, and he's a very nice gentleman. All right, the one who deals with Lincoln, I think his name is David King, HMO enforcement officer. Very nice, nice person, and work with you. So look, if he went round to 20 HMOs, he will probably find problems with 18 or 19 of them. Why? Purely because people get a little bit complacent. When he finds those things out, and look, when I was a chef, when we used to have the environmental health officer come into the kitchen and inspect everything, we'd get a letter and there'd be things in black bold there, which again, when you're working, you don't see. So it might be a few cracked tiles, and the reason that you've got to fix them straight away is so vermin doesn't get in behind, such as cockroaches and stuff like this. So you've got to keep it secure. There'd be some other things, it might be a bit of mess, it might be where the refuse is just being kept in or something like this, but whatever it is, it being black writing, you'll get a notice to correct things, and that's fine. And so whenever we got that, we knew, and that will be every single restaurant bar none. All right, they'd get some sort of notice. That's, you got about 6 weeks, they come back and they want to see it's all done. The same thing happens with HMO. Then the officer would come along, they'll write to you and say, look, you're in breach, okay? And let me tell you what this guy was in breach for. So his staircase was dangerous. There was structural defects, I believe, around the staircase. It's difficult to understand from the report. And it looked like it was potentially going to collapse. Imagine that. Imagine just a staircase. Imagine someone takes their kid up there and they fall down, or someone falls down, they break a leg, or they become disabled, or they die. It's a terrible thing. You've got to keep people safe. But that wasn't all. Excessive cold, so that means there's a problem with the heating. Golden tip, guys, if you're going to be doing HMO, you cannot, it's illegal to not give access to the controls to the tenants. You can't do that. Okay, they have to be able to control the heating. Don't think, well, they're spending too much. Well, you can do different ways. The next thing was damp. So of course, hand in hand, excessive cold, damp, it comes in, whether it's condensation, whether it is actual damp coming in, rising damp, or coming in from the guttering, whatever. These things have to be fixed because they create spores. That's bad for your lungs. Again, this is all really, really bad. There are fire hazards in the property. There is food safety issues. Imagine that, food safety. That's disgusting. That's going to be around the fridge or the cooking or stuff. Because if you're not monitoring it and having it cleaned each week with an HMO, which you're supposed to be doing, then you're not doing it. And then it gets worse. Sanitation and drainage. That talks of toilet stink and everything else. So, look, this landlord is not unique. There is a lot. Now, when I saw the fine, I realised that the report said that he was handed an improvement notice to get everything done. He ignored the improvement notice. So with the list that I've just read out, that comes to, if you're going to fix all of that, that would come to thousands of pounds to fix that. New staircase, you could be looking at 5,000, I don't know the staircase, but to replace it. But if it's just to repair it, let's say £500 to repair. Excessive cold, then, you know, put a boiler in, make sure it's all right, the windows close, etc. If there's damp, if there's fire issues, food safety, sanitation and drainage, you know, he's probably going to have to spend £10,000 on his property. But what did he do? He completely ignored it. Completely. Now, is that going to get rid of his tenants? Well, the council might have to rehouse them somewhere else. And don't be thinking that this is a strategy how to get rid of your tenants. What I was shocked at was the level of fine. So when I've seen fines on landlords who have done this before, it's usually around about 90,000 pounds. This person was very, very fortunate in Nottingham Court. He got fined £1,001.42. Hence, he did not do all the works. Probably got an empty property now. Maybe that's what he wanted to do. It's an immoral way of emptying your house. If his tenants weren't paying the bills, what do you think? Was he right? Was he wrong? In my opinion, he was wrong. You can't do that, shouldn't do that, and you're breaching the law. But £1,000 and he might have got rid of all of his tenants. Listen, I'm throwing it up there. You comment, tell me, has he done a good thing? Has he done a bad thing? Look, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's just a bit of an update. Watch this week's. There's something coming up which is quite amazing. I'm going to discuss. It's not there, but I think it's the first step on a pathway to it. So, guys, please share, subscribe and comment. Put your comments down on this. Let me know how you're doing. If you're interested in any of our training, please just drop me an email. My email is down below. We do purchase lease options, buying at auction houses, and the last one is buy, refurb, refinance with a touch on development. All right, guys, have a wonderful week. Stay safe. God bless you. Bye-bye.